Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Morning Cup. I am so honored today because I have Mikey Lucas with me. Mikey has over 10 years of experience in sustainable energy, business development, and marketing across several business sectors. As an entrepreneur, he started multiple eight-figure residential and commercial solar companies and has consulted over 200 companies in his career as a business development consultant. Mikey discovered his purpose in life was to find a solution to two of the world's greatest challenges today, creating sustainable energy and generational wealth. His entrepreneurial journey and background spans multiple industries, including renewable energy, real estate, crypto, and technology. He leads the strategy, planning, and business development efforts for the American Energy Fund. He empowers his clients in building generational wealth, strategies, systems, and high-performing teams through the Golden Door formula. Thank you so much for being here today, Mikey.
Wow, that was an awesome introduction. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. It was a mouthful, but you've accomplished so much. And I'm so excited to have you on today because I know so many people are going to learn from you as well. But I would love for you to kind of summarize, if you can, what you've gone through to get here today, and then we can dive a little bit deeper.
Yeah, the short story is I grew up in Las Vegas. I'm 30 years old today in 2022. I grew up in Las Vegas, humble family, humble upbringing. My family moved from I'm technically second generation in America. So my mom and dad were both first generation. Their parents were from Portugal or Italy. And then before that, my mom's side was from Lebanon, immigrated to Italy, and then came to America through New York. My dad's family came from Portugal, from Madeira to San Diego. They were big tuna fishermen out of San Diego. So they literally moved across the latitudes. They went from Madeira to San Diego. It's the same exact weather there. It's kind of funny. My dad and mom met in Las Vegas, had kids, and people say, oh, well, there's, you probably heard this all the time, but people are like, oh, you live in Las Vegas? What? There's a lot of people that are born and raised in Las Vegas, especially now. Back then, maybe not so much, but growing up in Las Vegas made it an interesting upbringing. But my parents had really strong moral values, and it was two-parent home, so they were both there all the time. I had two older brothers, a younger sister, and now I have two younger brothers now as well. But we were in sports, we were in shows, and beauty pageants as a kid. So they kept us active, really strong core family. We would go on, vacations together, and not luxurious vacations. My dad still has his 91 RV that we kept. And, as easy as, if you could take hey, we camped in the backyard and that's fun. That was what the kids wanted. And it's as easy as us going to a creek and doing some fishing or whatever. I never, ever caught anything for some reason, but brothers always did. So I got to, I got to watch my two older brothers do very, very well and excel. I was the bash brother kid, not the black sheep, but I always wanted to be like my older brother. So at 2 years old, I was already riding a bike without training wheels, and I grew up really, really fast because apparently I was, I don't remember back then, but apparently I was very wanted to be out there with my brothers. So I grew up pretty fast. Then obviously got into the, social scene in Las Vegas. And I eventually got into drugs. I started using drugs socially, and, smoking pot at sixth grade, not every day, but smoking pot at sixth grade. And I ended up, trying to find people that I could have community with and, feel like I belonged. And, I really didn't have any depression. There was really no reason for me to be using drugs or drinking or partying. It was just I don't know, that's just kind of what it was. And it's funny how I live in Houston, Texas now, but a lot of people are oh, wow, Vegas, what? You guys are no, we just wear our sin on our sleeve and we put it on a billboard. You guys are in the closet, you're doing it, you're thinking about it, and you're doing it. So let's not there's not very much difference between the two of us here. But
Right.
then yeah. So I got, the story goes is that, I got put in jail, got caught up in the drug scene, and I was addicted to synthetic heroin. So I was taking about 500 to 600 milligrams of Oxycontin a day. And it was socially at first, and then became solutionally. And then, the one bad breakup in high school tipped me off. and I became a full-blown drug addict.
Mhm.
I knew that I didn't belong there, but I didn't know where to turn to. And I wanted to find answers. I wanted to find freedom. I wanted to find, not just success or like the cars and all that stuff. I thought success was like making a little bit more than my parents did, which actually is what only thing they wanted was we just, immigrant, got to be a little bit better than the last family and a little bit better than the last generation. And now today, I have succeeded my dad's net worth at 27 years old. And that was a really cool feeling. But, at that point I was like, well, now what? So it's been a journey, defining not just my job or my career, but also my purpose and my calling. And that's now what I do. I'm just really passionate about researching that, the whole self-development, self-discovery. I became Christian in 2012, started having a faith for myself, because I had a lot of questions. I still do, but that's where I'm at. So yeah, I got recruited into door-to-door sales in 2012 or 13 and started selling alarm systems for a company called AMP, selling Guardians alarm systems, which they're still around. And then I got right into solar right after that. And since then, yeah, you kind of heard the rap sheet. So I run a $50 million energy fund now. I've got a real estate fund, coaching business. I've got a software company called Golden Door Formula. So yeah, it's you could say that I'm all over the place, but I'm really strategic. I mean, it's like very streamlined. I was very not careful, but very strategic. It's one of my strengths is being strategic. So I was very strategic of what I was doing, and I really just wanted to solve problems. So no matter what it is, I will always find a way to solve a problem.
I love that. And too, it goes back to just like being in situations where it really tests us. It really shows us our true character of how we can overcome something, no matter what the circumstance is. And I'm curious because, there's a lot of individuals that struggle with mental health or addiction in any kind of capacity. What was that really initial moment for you to make that change and get recruited into door-to-door sales? Like, what was that journey like in between?
I would say the main things would have been that I knew that I was destined for more. Like there was 2 or 3 voices that were in my head when I was just by myself. And a couple of them, which were usually overpowering, were the negative. I self-pity, self-loathing, self-hate, self-destruction. Usually that's what overpowered me. But I just knew when I could slow down. And it happened it happened every time I'd go to San Diego on our vacation, and I would sit out and look at the water. And I was like, I would get a perspective. And there's like a quote that a buddy of mine said to me the other day, Dan Fleischman. He said, once your brain is expanded, it can never retract. So once you learn and you find and seek knowledge, it can never go back. You can't unlearn that. Right. Which is funny. One of my other mentors, a spiritual mentor of mine, actually told me not to read too many books because he's like, it kind of made me a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs that he's read all these books. And I was like, and he's a major brainiac, like very smart guy, engineer, like crazy reader. But really the main things of the transition or the breakthrough point or the aha moment back then was I knew I didn't want to be there. And I just was like, what if my life could look better? And it wasn't that I had a hard time working. I liked to work, It was funny because I was definitely 100% influenced by my environment. My environment was definitely like not wanting to work really hard. The people that I worked around, I worked at In-N-Out Burger back then. And some people wanted to work really hard and other people's didn't. Worked in car washes and all that type of stuff. And some guys wanted to work and girls wanted to work and other people just didn't. And I didn't really get along with people that didn't want to work because my family, my dad ran the house like it was a boat, like it was a tuna boat. I mean, like literally everything was in line. I mean, you could ask all my friends growing up. It's really funny actually, how our house was ran like a boat. But yeah, the main thing was just those voices in the back of my head that were there. They're still there. But I control them a lot better now. And I knew that I was destined to do something great. I just didn't know what it was. And I had to learn how to be patient and pay my dues. So paying my dues, paying my time to learn was the key there. And really asking like the big things like, why am I here? What is the meaning of life? what is my purpose? What do I have a calling? Am I in a simulation? I don't know. Like, let's find out. I don't know. And that's one of the cool things about Mikey Lucas is that he questions things no matter who it comes from. I trust people, but then I go, how do I
Yeah.
look at it back and forth? I'm like, let's test this thing out. So that was really the main thing is I had those voices and I knew that I wanted to do great. I just didn't know what it was. And I just started trying things. So that's when I moved back to Vegas, got into the restaurants, and then got recruited right into the door-to-door industry. I said, screw it, I'll try it out.
I love it. And, it goes back to just one thing I wanted to point out with your dad being very strategic. And that's like one of your core values and what you talk about so much on just all your social media platforms too, that I've seen. It is being very strategic of what you're doing. It's having that vision and like tunnel vision of where you're going. You might not always know the how, but it's taking those steps and putting in the work, like what you were saying too, like going back to Vegas and going in the restaurant industry and then getting recruited, and it all just kind of unfolded. But at the same time, you were taking those steps to make it happen as well. And I think it's really listening to those voices too. When I meant for more, I have a purpose, because I do believe too that everyone has a purpose. We might not know it early on, we might know it later in life, but really just trusting those voices that want to see you do well as well. Like you want to, but also those voices, it's stronger sometimes and you can't ignore them. Just like our brain, once it's been expanded, we can't go back. It can't go back to what it was before.
Right.
I love that you brought that into the conversation as well. So I know it hasn't been just an easy walk through life for you.
I got everything handed to me, bro.
But with that being said, what has been some of the roadblocks that you faced building your business, especially in the beginning, like going into sales and now all the other businesses that you have created?
In the beginning, I was overly confident, a very, very street ability to communicate. I couldn't negotiate to save a life back then. And I didn't have a vocabulary. My vocabulary was like not even 1,000 words probably. So I didn't read any books at that time. I didn't watch any podcasts, self-discovery or, self-mastery at all. My biggest roadblocks was that I didn't have a vocabulary to say things that made sense. I realized that right on in the beginning that I needed to start to learn to grow to expand my brain, to work my brain out as hard as I was working out my body. So I started reading a lot of books, and I did mostly audiobooks at that time, but I would have the paper book and I would follow along. And that was initial journey. I didn't lack motivation. I'm an activator. So like I could start things really, really quick. I'm like, let's go. I got this. Come on. I can do this. Surfing. Oh my God, I'm getting destroyed by the waves. Whoa. Holy crap. This looks a lot easier on film. I'm like a 230-pound guy on a short board, not realizing that doesn't work.
You tried.
Yeah, I did try. So I ended up going and getting a 7'8" board and ended up being able to work the board like almost like a short board, not like a short board, but main thing was that my communication skills were very, very low. My self-belief was very, very low. I didn't believe that I could even make 100,000. I thought $100,000 a year was like, at that time, I was like, I live in a big house. I got a really nice car. Like I thought 100 grand was like completely unattainable. So my self-belief was very, very low. And I at that time, honestly, which is okay in certain cases, I was focused more on me than I was on helping other people. And when I realized that, I was like, hey, like I'm focusing on me so that I can help other people. Then I was like, boom, that clicked. That's what started working, instead of just focusing on me so that I can have the car, the clothes, the house, the dogs, have my own things. I end up saying, oh yeah, I'm more motivated to go now work for other people than I am for myself, which still is the case today. Yeah, that was the big one. Moving on, people are very good salesmen. They will sell you on this vision. And I didn't understand. I mean, I've been backstabbed probably 7 or 8 times now, like completely just like taken advantage of. And luckily, in the early on in my career, I worked for somebody that was really, really, really a genuine human being. His name's Adam Harper, and he really cared about me. He poured a lot of time into me. So that was very good for me. Once Solar City, Tesla Energy broke up, that was when I was like in the wild, wild west. I was like, oh, like, yeah, everyone's going to treat me like Adam that has a genuine heart and cares about people. Wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to learn that the hard way. But I mean, honestly, I wouldn't go back and change any of it because I needed those lessons. You know, a setback is really for a setup, you know, and that's really, it was the mindset. I didn't even have a mindset that was possible. It was everyone's out to get me. It was not just a victim mentality. That's like a common word nowadays, but like, yeah, I was a everyone's out to get me. Damned if I do, damned if I don't mentality. And it was really my mindset. So early on, it was my mindset. I didn't get that it was eventually going to all pay off. I wanted things to be urgent. I wanted it to be, I wanted success right away. Like, why don't people, I believed in solar, for instance, so much. So I was like, why don't people want to buy this? This is like, why would they not want to buy this? And this was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, why would they not want to do a lease right now with a 2.9% escalator? This is so weird. Right. And yeah, so I was convinced that solar was the best. And so I didn't understand that it was going to take time to grow. So I talked too much. I talked myself out of sales all the time. I talk like I'm talking right now. I talk way too much, but now I'm a little more strategic.
It's good. It's telling a story, right? And it's knowing who your audience is, who you're talking to, especially with like, sometimes people do talk themselves out of sales because they're just so passionate about it. And I agree. What's not to like about solar? Like, it's benefiting everybody in the entire world. But I wanted to go back to what you said about putting yourself first, because that's something that's super important to me. And I talk about a lot about of just putting yourself at the top of the priority list, because it's true. If you are not showing up as yourself, all the energy, you have nothing left to give, and you're not going to be good for anybody. And it's filling that cup first. And it took me a long time to process that, because especially being a former therapist, I was like, oh, it's all about the other person, and realizing I had to practice what I was preaching.
Right.
Now I do. But I love that you said that, and you had to learn that, and you did, because it really goes back to how many more people you can help by putting yourself first. And I just wanted to highlight that, because I think a lot of people have this misconception that it's selfish, or you're being like, whatever it may be, but it's really going back to understanding that you are showing up as the greatest good of you so you can give to others.
Correct. Yeah, I'll touch on that if you don't mind.
Yeah, please.
I love that. I love that conversation. The reason why Mikey Lucas focuses on being the best version of Mikey Lucas that he can is so that I can serve my wife, is so that I can serve my future children, is so that I can be there for my mom, be there for my brothers, be there for my family, for my sisters, right? Like, I do that for my community, for my church, for my, my organizations. I work on the best version of me so that I can be, I do it selfishly so that I can help them. And again, that was the main reason what really sparked it wasn't the spark. It wasn't a AA battery. It wasn't a car battery. It wasn't a, P100D battery. I'm talking, this thing was like a major, spark to keep me going for a very long time, was when I wanted to start serving others. But again, it's the whole mentality of in the plane. And I talk about this a lot, but it's very important because I do fly a lot now. But they say, if there's a loss, if there's a lack of oxygen in the cabin, there's going to be an oxygen mask that comes down. Put it on yourself first, then put it on somebody else. It's really weird. It's a really weird, like, it's not taboo. It's just this like weird thing in America and Western culture that like, we want to be nice to other people, but really we're not. It's like almost like in the Midwest, they're like, oh, bless your heart. Really, that means F you a lot of times. But like, it's like we want to be nice to people. We show face and then we just don't. So it's like, but internally we really don't care about them. But I'm like, I'm not like that. I actually care about them. But in regards to like the plane analogy, it's like we naturally want to like, oh, help everybody else first. Like when I was getting out of drugs, one of my mentors, Henry Lopez, said, bro, you can't like go to the bar and try to save your boys that are there because you're not ready for that yet. And obviously I argued and was like, well, they're going to die. And what if they get, a DUI and it ruins their life, ruins their career? That's a felony now. And this, and it's like, he's like, bro, look, like, again, you're very ambitious and you're very, convinced of this, but how bad do you want to get out? Yeah. Well, I was like, I want to get out. He's like, well, why do you want to get out? Because my mom, like, my mom didn't give up on me. And, I was really important to me. And he's like, well, okay. So like, you got to get better for you so that you can be there for your mom. Like, you want to be there for your mom, right? Yeah. Okay. Well, does your mom have it together right now? And I was like, for now, yeah. Yeah, she does. Okay. What about your sister? Yeah. They're good right now. But what if they're not in the future? And you go over here, try to go fix these other guys and you're not even ready yet. So it's almost like, we focus more on other people than we focus on ourselves. But again, I'm being the best version of Mikey so that I can get better, because whether I like it or not, I'm going to become more like my wife or more like the people that I hang out with. Show me your 5 best friends. I'll show you where you'll be at in 5 years. Like, for a long time, I didn't have friends. I stopped hanging out with friends. Like, they all hated on me because I used drugs in high school and in college. And now most of those dudes are using drugs now. Now, a lot of them have, thank God, made it out of it. Thank God. But, I've lost 23 friends and family members now in the last 12 years from suicide, drug overdose, and drinking and driving. It's like, you want to talk about a scary situation. It's that. But why are we doing that? It's because we're told not to love ourselves. We're told not to care about ourselves. We're told to humble yourself. Don't be prideful. Like, how many times Mikey Lucas has been told that he's cocky, arrogant, prideful. What's the other words? Oh my gosh. I don't even think about them. Cause I'm like, first of all, that's not who I am. Like, if you knew who I was, that's not who I am. But we're told, for whatever reason, like, fall in line. Don't like yourself. Like me, I'm like, no, bro, like, for me now, and I honestly, I don't like fight with Christians a lot about this, but I like fight with theologians about this. I'm like, bro, the Bible says to love, like the greatest commandment is summed up in these two: love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, and soul. And then Jesus says, love your neighbor. And everyone stops there. And I go, yeah, cool. It does say love your neighbor, but how do you love your neighbor? As you love yourself. So homie, we need to start with loving yourself first, and then we can love our neighbor. Because if you hate yourself and you don't take care of yourself and you let yourself slip and you keep lying to yourself, those words that people always say, sorry, I'm fired up now. So those,
no, go.
like, oh yeah, like you're the one you're the biggest critic of yourself. You're the biggest, you lie to yourself the most. I'm like, bro, no, I don't lie to myself anymore. I don't as much anymore. I still, I guess, technically do, but I as much anymore. I'm not the biggest critic of myself anymore, because what that does is it slows my ability down to then go and serve and help and make the world a better place and do and walk in my purpose and walk in my calling. Because I'm like self-pity, self-loathing. Like, I hate who I am. Like, no, bro, like I love who I am today, but tomorrow I'm going to get a little bit better. Like, and I thank God I'm not who I was 10 years ago or 5 years ago, or, 2 weeks ago. Like, I'm getting better. So, we need to understand, and we need to question why are society or social media or whatever, like, pushing this, like, we are no longer in the self-love thing anymore. Right. But I'm like, I don't know, dude, like ancient philosophy, like the ancient scholar Jesus said that we should love our neighbor as we love ourselves. You can't love your neighbor and hate yourself, dude. So like, I don't know, man. I follow trends, and there's a few like Bible verses in the book of 1 John chapter 4, where he talks about that God, how God is love. And obviously people misconstrue that and blah, 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 whatever. But like, for me, it's like, hey, how I see that is that if I don't love who I am, I can't love my wife. If I don't love who I am, and if I don't love who I am, okay, well, how do I fix that? How do I make it to where, like, the secret to success is loving who you are? The secret to success is loving who you are. So if I don't love who I am, and I always say this, I go, look, if things aren't adding up, you got to start subtracting, brother. You got to start subtracting, sister. Like, you can't, if you don't like who you are, I'm telling you right now, if I followed you around for 24 hours, I could tell you right now what your routine is and how much you don't like yourself and why you don't like yourself. I guarantee you within 24 hours, 36 hours probably, that I could tell you exactly what's going on. Like, dude, you're feeding yourself from your ears and your eyes this, literally negativity, like bad energy, bad vibes, right? Bad spirituality. Like, dude, like, that's why we're told to not like ourselves. The enemy, both sides, right? If the right side's saying, hey, love yourself, and the left side saying hate yourself, right? It's like, well, why are we more attracted to hating ourselves? Because it's easier to hate ourselves, because we don't want to be that person that says, oh, Mikey's prideful and arrogant. I'm like, no, I'm just okay with the fact that I mess up. I never said I don't mess up. I just said that I'm okay with that because I'm learning from that. It's a learning. Sometimes you win and sometimes you learn. So I'm learning from that. You think that you got to be perfect. I'm like, no, I ain't going to be perfect. I'm going to mess up, but I'm going to learn from that. And that's, That is what's different with Mikey. I understand that. I do know that a lot of people are not like that. But for me, I look at it like I want to get better as much as I possibly can. I want to, reach the fullest potential of Mikey Lucas. And when I get there, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people will be served from that. And that is the biggest motivator. Here's the catch. You want to know the catch?
Yeah.
That along the way, there's going to be people continually nagging, backstabbing, talking crap, nipping at my ankles. It happens over and over and over again. I'm like a weed. I just keep growing back. I just keep growing back in different forms every single time. I just keep getting better. Like, bro, you can go get the lawnmower or the weed killer. Like, I'm gonna just keep coming back. Like, and I look different every time. You're like, oh, I thought I killed that weed. Well, yeah, he's back.
You're a fighter.
Absolutely.
And it goes back to just being a good human, right? Like knowing that we are human, we're all going to make mistakes. And I think that's so important what you talked about too. There's so many amazing things you said there, but just to kind of pinpoint a few things that stood out to me is like, even with going back to the plane, you put your oxygen mask on first. I talk about that all the time too, but it's this concept where people are so focused on everyone else that they forget about themselves, especially when they have families or they're dealing with parents that are getting older or dealing with children, dealing with friends. But at the end of the day, it is a little taboo to be like, oh, I love myself, I'm this and that, but it's really about understanding how amazing we are. And we're always growing, we're always evolving. And I love your example of the weeds because it just keeps coming back in different forms, like you mentioned, but it's really about, we get better when we know better. We do better when we know better. And it's that process, and it's never ending until we're not on this earth anymore. But we can always continue to make a choice every single day and really pouring into ourselves, because it is going to transpire to everyone around us. Because like what you mentioned too, and I talk about this as well, you are the 5 people you surround yourself with, like the most. Able to recognize too that what you're surrounding yourself with, what your day-to-day looks like. If you are not happy, it's no one's job to make you happy except yours. That's what I firmly believe, because it is like somebody can add value to your life, add happiness. But if you are not happy internally, that is going to impact everyone around you. I'm just so appreciative of everything you're saying, because I'm like, yes, yes, and yes. That being said, I would love to hear maybe 1 or 2 success stories you've had in building your business. We're going to talk about generational wealth in a minute, but really about just how you've been able to help others.
Sure. Let's see. A couple really fun ones is what's helped my leadership career within business, because, I didn't run a single person entity. I had like upwards of 70 to 100 people at any given time coming through the offices. And what I noticed about the people that I loved the most and worked with the most was there was 2 sets of people. There was the top performers that sometimes the top guy or top girl, not that we didn't get along, but I was like, I'm not really like you. Like, I'm more like a team guy, but you're a lone ranger. So I got to like figure out how to like just keep you in the lane and like let you like go off and do what you want to do, but like keep you going. And I'll talk about that person here in a second, those people there. And then everybody else that's in the 40% to 21%. Those were my favorite to work with, because a lot of them, there was a lot of failure rate in that, but the ones that would make it out of the, they're not in the top 20% of the company, or the top 20% of their class, or top 20% of their, family or whatever. The ones that were in the 21 to 40%, I was in that top 40 to 21%. That was me. That was Mikey Lucas in 2014 and 2015 when I was at Solar City Tesla Energy, or 16 and 17 as well. Those people are my favorite to work with, because all they need is that one more coach, that one more word of affirmation, one more, hey man, I see this in you. I see you going big places. I see you, taking your family to another, area over here or whatever. Right. I see you helping your parents get out of debt. I see you doing all these things. I see you basically, being the next Martin Luther King, right? I see you being the next Mother Teresa. I see you doing, putting up solar panels on these churches over here. And I see you doing all this good. Sometimes it's just that person needs just to get from first base to second base. And I loved helping those people get there. Sometimes I can bring them all the way around, or they were already on second, and it was a lot easier to get them from second to home. In that kind of an analogy, it was a lot easier to get those guys there or those girls there. But sometimes it was just getting them to the next step and then seeing them flourish. I have had, for instance, one guy that came through my office, his name's Jonathan. He now has, I think 3 locations and 8 now, I think vans, 8 vans. He runs a mobile detailing a dog grooming business. And in our one-on-ones, he's like selling solar with us. And I come to find out, I'm like, what really motivates you? Like if money, and this was like one of the questions I'd ask. I was like, if money didn't matter, like what would you do with your time every single day? He's like, or what, that plus a combination of like, if you had all the money in the world, what would you do? He's like, oh, I would start a dog grooming business and I would blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, dude, in my head, I am not going to stop Jonathan from going and doing that. I'm going to help him through the vehicle of solar at that time, which was that it was of the vehicle of solar to help him figure out how to, I'm going to go look it up. I'm going to say, all right, what's the business license cost? What's the insurance cost? What's the startup company? Because most of that is online. You can pretty much find that and do some, adding 30, 40% or whatever, just to get some round numbers. We ended up coming up with, I think it was like $78,000 he needed cash to be able to get his first truck down payment, have enough business money to be able to float him. And it was like the old, like rape van, like dog grooming business. It was so funny. He has now the top brand new, the nicest, like Mercedes Sprinter vans, like the dopest ones with solar on it. Like it's so energy efficient. It's so cool. But getting him, instead of holding him down, I just unpacked, I built him up. And now this dude calls me all the time. I help him with his business. I consult his business. And he's got, like I said, 8 trucks, 3 locations. He's now franchising out into multiple states. And that was a really cool success story because I didn't want him to stay with solar, even though I made an override, if you will. I was paid on how well he did in solar. It was, hey, I'm going to help you get to $78,000. And then I'm going to push you to go do that.
Yeah.
So I help people with an end goal, which is what I realized in the beginning.
Yeah.
So there's that. And that's one story of multiple stories of this. The other guy or the other person, right? There's those people there that Jonathan never was the top guy in our office. Never, ever, 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 ever. Those guys usually don't have the top guys. There might be top guy for 1 or 2 months or 1 or 2 months in their career. And that's really it. They're just like the middle of the road, like 7 to 12 installs in solar a year. A month guy. Mm-hmm. The other guys that are in that top 5%, one of them, a really cool success story to make it short and brief was helping that person specifically have enough money to basically be the one for his family, because his family like hated on him for being a door-to-door guy and like absolutely hated on him. Or like, oh, you're not a lawyer, you're not a doctor, you're not a dentist, you're not a nurse, right? Like you're a door-to-door guy. So all like the doctors and nurses in his family, because there was like 1 or 2 of them in LA, like hated on him so bad. So I was like, oh, I got this, bro. Do you realize how much more money you're going to make? I taught him how to sell ethically, taught him how to become more than a 50% referral business. And then the kid sent 2 or 3 different times over $30,000 to his family in Central America, because of a hurricane. Yeah, it was a hurricane. It was a hurricane and then a landslide. There was 2 of them. It was like his family's farm got destroyed, and he sent 30 grand cash twice. And I think another time he sent like $15,000 down there as well to help them so they didn't lose their family farm. And guess what? The lawyer cousin didn't do a lick. And this kid, that to me that is success. When I can help somebody else from the overflow of what they have, give to their family and be there. And that's what in my successful career of leadership, I find out what really motivates you. And sometimes it is the car and the clothes and the other stuff, but like, that's not very hard. That's like maybe 10 grand a month. Like, okay, cool. Like 10 grand a month. Like we can get that. Like that's easy to build, or 5, 6 grand a month for like a BMW and like a nice high rise or whatever. Okay. 7 grand a month. Ooh. But like after that, what are you going to do with the other $600,000 that I help you make in the next 2 years? Like, what are we going to do with that? That's the fun stuff. So I like finding people, what really actually motivates people, what fires them up, gets them excited and inspired about the future. And then I help them reverse engineer it. And then we set out a strategy. There you go again. And we figure
I love it. It's very consistent.
And that happens over and over and over and over again. I've done that multiple times, countless times.
I believe it. And it's your heart, right? Like your heart is in the right place and wanting to help other people succeed. And it is that gratifying aspect of seeing them change over time too, and just what they're able to accomplish. And it has to do with just having somebody in their corner, like the one you were talking about too, where he was able to help his family and send the money, but it was really about being able to help them and it pours over. And that's such a gratifying feeling. Not everyone feels that. I know I do. I know you do. But it just speaks to your heart. And I would love for you to talk a little bit about generational wealth, because I think it's something that's so important, especially recession is here, it's happening. But how have you been able to create generational wealth, and what can you tell us about it?
It depends on when this podcast is going to come out. We might be in a depression, like depression here. So we might not even be in a recession anymore. We might be in a full-blown depression.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, yeah, as far as generational wealth. So in my book, Purposeful Profit, Mastering the Millennial Mindset for Success, I talk about how the American dream is dead. The American dream of like getting a job, getting a pension, a wife, a white picket fence, 2.5 kids, a dog named Charlie. Like, you know, in there, I talk about like your Yukon or your Escalade with your boat and like whatever, right? You live in Salt Lake City, right? Nothing against Salt Lake City. I like Salt Lake City, but you know, just like, it's just more it's just more humbling than saying like Las Vegas, right? In Las Vegas, people automatically think, oh, sinner. So humble unless it's humble in Salt Lake. One of the, I guess the main thing there is just that I was sick and tired of seeing people in my industry, which was the door-to-door and the sales and the marketing industry, make all this money and have nothing to show for it at the end of on December 31st. And it stemmed again from a question of, well, why are all these guys making all this money? And I wasn't making money at that time. I was barely making it, right? Less than $100,000 a year in those first couple of years. Mm-hmm. And just starting my business and all that. I'm like, why are these guys making, I mean, they're destroying it. 1-2 deals a day. I'm like, I'm lucky if I do one a day, right? Mm-hmm. 6 days a week. And I'm like, why do these guys have everything, but then they have to come back and it seems as if they're pretty much broke. So I started questioning that. You know, obviously in 2008, I saw families to my left and to my right where we grew up all around my neighborhood, you know, that did a lot of nice vacations and had like G-Wagons and whatever. And, you know, they ended up having to sell their house in 2008 or lost their house or gave back to the bank. And, you know, I just wanted to learn from their mistakes and say it's a mistake or not a mistake. It's a mistake that it's only a mistake if they keep doing the same thing, but it was a learning lesson that I was like, okay, like if, cause this is a very common thing, like the people at 7-Eleven are going to say the same thing. Every 8 to 10 years, the economy crashes, right? So that's why like in 2016, 2015, people were like, the economy is going to go down. The economy is going to go down. The economy is going to go down. Well, from there, it was going up already, obviously from 2008, but it went up even again. So understanding not just microeconomics, but macroeconomics, world economics, was very important to me to understand the habits of where the economy is going and what actually makes the world go around. Like what makes an economy? Simply put, people have confidence in buying goods and services and they have the money to pay for it. So that's, you know, if we don't have goods and services, we don't have an economy. Mm-hmm. This is why, you know, if we're going to go in recession, we're like the Federal Reserve right now is raising interest rates so that we can stop buying houses, which now if you talk to real estate agents, they're like, oh yeah, like, you know, nobody wants to buy houses anymore. It's like, no, they still want to buy houses. They just, you know, not everyone can just get into a house for, you know, now 6-7% anymore or whatever, which again, people are like, oh, well, if you look at, you know, macroeconomics over 30 years, like that's actually a really good rate anyways. Well, it's hard to do your job as a real estate agent, for instance, if all you sell is the rate. It's like, no, like you're selling the experience. You should be selling the experience of buying a house, not just like the rate, and they're doing it for a commission, whatever. So when it comes to generational wealth, that was the main thing. I wanted to become as recession proof as I possibly could. Not just because I wanted to have luxury vacations or whatever, but I wanted to be able to have, again, what I talked about in the very beginning which was freedom. I wanted freedom of choice. I wanted to be able to do what I wanted, when I wanted, wherever I wanted, with whoever I wanted, for however long I wanted to do that, without having to be told, hey, you got to come back to work. You got to come do this. Now, here's the catch with that is that if you can't walk away, if you're a business owner right now, you're an entrepreneur and you can't walk away from your business for a month and it's still up and running and making money, you don't own a company, you own a job. So there's a big difference there. You own a job. You don't own a company. You're not, you might, you know, have all the risk on your back, right? And responsibility on your back and legal on your back, but you know, you own a job. So my thing was I wanted freedom. I wanted to be able to travel and do things that I wanted to do. Like for instance, I had a funeral in Austin a couple of weeks ago and the fact that I could just leave, go and be there for my boys' family and talk and comfort them, that to me is freedom. So I'm in a journey now where I learned from the lessons of what people told me, and I saw trends. I saw what people thought about money. Money, the topic of money is taboo.
Mm-hmm.
Especially now where I'm heavily involved in at least twice a week is in the church, right? In the Christian church in America. And like, we're like, whoa, dude, like money is the root of all evil. I'm like, no, the obsession and love of money is the root of all evil. Like, how do you pay your bills, bro? Like, you think God doesn't want you to go and like work? I thought the Bible says that a worker deserves his wages, right? Like, what's wrong with going out and working? And I believe, and I can back this up scripturally too, but I believe that I'm honoring God by doing the very, very best that I could, being the most profitable that I can. Like, who do you think pays for these buildings? Like, the church is a nonprofit. Most of the time they don't make money. Like, who do you think pays for that? The attendees pay for that, right? So I wanted to have freedom, but mainly I wanted to be able to now teach other people. Once again, my brain was expanded and I wanted to teach people like, hey, if this recession thing happens again, like, are you exposed to it? Like, we're over here talking crap on how your parents or their parents, lost everything, but how close are you to losing everything as well? You see statistics like 78% of Americans or 76% of Americans or 80% of Americans, whatever the number is, live paycheck to paycheck or, and don't have over $5,000 in the bank account. I'm like, bro, $5,000? Whoa, that is sketch. That is scary. Like, how do you not have $5,000 in your bank account? Right. And even most entrepreneurs, they're not, they're exposed to that as well. Most entrepreneurs don't have anything either. And it's interesting. So I wanted to make sure that I could become recession proof. So I have this, I'll try to pull it up, but I have this 12 commandments of money. And one of them is don't raise your lifestyle until your passive income can pay for it. So don't go from a Hyundai to an Audi unless you have enough passive income to pay for the difference. Like, if you can't love who you are and love the fact that you keep your nice Hyundai clean, like, you're not going to keep the Audi clean. Like, you think we have this myth that we're going to become something, right? Like, why do you think people wear Gucci and Louis Vuitton and, whatever, Tory Burch or Lululemon and stuff like, I don't get me wrong. I do feel better when I'm wearing Lululemon, but like, I'm not, when I take the shirt off, I'm still Mikey Lucas. Like, I'm just who I am. Right. But yeah, I don't know. The main thing there is just right now, when it comes to generational wealth, there's 4 buckets. So I'll give you a little lesson here. There's 4 buckets to generational wealth. So you have the now, the later, the long-term, and then your legacy. So your long-term would be your lifetime. So you need to fill those buckets strategically and basically all at the same time. A lot of times with the financial advisors, what they'll tell you is that, and I am not a financial advisor, I'm a college dropout. I just read a lot of books. I read all those same books that those guys read and those tests, and I take all those too. I'm not one of those guys. I'm like anti-system, anti-bank. The banks are not your friends. We think they are for some reason, but they're not. But how do you fill all 4 buckets so that you can become financially independent right off the bat and have your expenses paid for? One is, we complain that our wages are not higher. And I know a lot of your listeners are entrepreneurs, but we can still complain that our pay is not higher, but and we don't have any money to go out and do the things we want. Yet we've got this is embarrassing. I've got 5 of these $400 freaking AirPod things in my cubby right there because I keep losing them. But I don't complain. I don't complain that I don't have enough money. I just go, I got to go solve more problems. I got to go add more value. So the main thing there is that if you're going to become recession proof, if you're going to create generational wealth, one is obviously set out a strategy, find out what your monthly expenses are, what's your monthly, it's called a burn rate. So what's your monthly nut is, how much money are you spending every single month? Okay. Then how much money do you need to make? And let's just use real estate, for instance. How much money do you need to make to put on a down payment on a property, enough down payments on a property or in a syndication or into a fund like one of mine to be able to get just the general basics of the first bucket, which is the now. How much money do you have, right? If your bills are $4,000 a month, cool. Well, how much money do you need to be able to do you need to be able to pay for that $4,000 a month so that now there's a lot less stress on your day-to-day grind and your day-to-day hustle to be able to now go and invest more money back into your business, which is you, and your actual product itself, and sharpen the axe. Yeah, I don't like when this taboo thing we have about money, about people just, we think we think we can wait, and we can't. And we think that, we're expert. We think we're expert investors, and we're not. I see it all the time. Anybody could have made money. My dead grandmother could have made money in 2020 to 2021 with picking any stock. Like, people, unfortunately, this is what I don't like about the markets, is that I'm going to make a lot of money. I'm probably double or triple my net worth within the next 2 years because of the transfer of wealth. But the reason what really frustrates me is that most Americans are going to, and most of the world is going to have major devastation if they don't get a grip on this, if they don't take this recession and eventually depression seriously. That's the definition of insanity. The same thing over and over again. It's like, dude, like, it's not that hard. Read a book on finances. Like, watch a YouTube video. Stop watching Netflix and go watch, stop watching, CSI Miami or whatever the frick's out there now. Like, watch something on how to become financially independent. Go read the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Like, geez, go read that book, for instance, dude. Like, if we don't have a grip on money, there's no way you'll create generational wealth. And, right now, personally, I've got over $20,000 a month in passive income, but that's because I didn't raise my lifestyle when I started making money. Right. I've got an 80-20 rule. I invest 80% and I live off of 20%. Most people are like, they live off of 60, 70, 80. They're like the opposite, right? And they invest not even 20. They live off of 100%. They live off of 150%.
Yeah.
So the main thing there is if you're going to create any generational wealth, is one, ask questions. Don't trust anybody, but just don't trust the first person you talk to. Go educate yourself to understand what money is, because everyone's is out to make a dollar. There's nothing wrong with that, but educate yourself on how to create generational wealth. And, you can do that through, like, what I'm doing in energy. You can do that through, real estate. You could do that through, life insurance policies, whole life, universal index life insurance policies, or whole life policies. There's a ton out there. A good book to read, if you want to know about that, is Money Master the Game. Once I read that book, it was really hard for me to read the book at first too. But once I read that book, I was like, oh, I kind of get it now. I had to put the book down like 3 times. Money Master the Game was like probably the best book that I've ever read when it comes to finances.
There's so much there too. I love everything that you're saying, because I do think a lot of people are just not aware or have done the research or the education. Like, when you go to the doctor, you don't take it as face value. If you're given a diagnosis, you get a second opinion, and it's the same concept. It's doing your own research and finding out what makes sense, but also connecting the dots for you, but also for your bank account. Well, not bank account, but your money. But with that being said, what are like your top 1 or 2 tips that you could give, or any budding entrepreneur, or that's somebody that is in the midst of entrepreneurship?
2 tips. Okay. The first one would be, become an expert in your product, become an expert in your field. Like, eat, sleep, drink, whatever product you're selling, like, eat, sleep, drink it. And you have to stand out. Like, if you don't stand out, Elon Musk says, like, if you're going to go, if you're not creating some new, like, industry, right? If you're going into an industry that there's already 10 different bagel stores in your block, right? Like, if you're going to start another bagel coffee shop, right? Like, you got to be 10 times better than those people, 10 times better than those people. Yeah. If not, you're going to fail. If you're not 10 times better, you're going to fail. Cut the time down. Pay for a coach. And by pay for a coach, I mean, go buy a $20 book and learn. Yeah. That's paying for a coach. Somebody, spent 40 years of an experience and put it into a $15, $20 book. Like, go pay for a coach, go buy a business book. That, like, educate yourself. Bible says to go, and, like, the biggest thing you could do in the book of Proverbs, the book of wisdom, is to go and find wisdom. Because why? Wisdom is the beginning of knowledge, and knowledge will set you free. So you have to go and find knowledge. If you don't find knowledge and understand, and seek understanding, there's no way you can understand and crack the code, if you will, to getting to that next level, and living life on your own terms. Otherwise, you're going to live life on the bank's terms. You're going to live life on your neighbor's terms. You're going to live life on the president's terms, whatever, right? So that would be the first or second one there, is those 2. But the last one I would say is, be patient. Like, be patient. Jeez, like it's not even our fault. I feel so bad. Like it's not our fault. But once I understood that my parents were the one that created the microwave, right? Their generation, not the actual, we'd be really rich at that point. You ever notice that there's never a microwave commercial? I just read
There's
that.
really not.
Never seen a microwave commercial. I just read that the other day. I was like, wait, what? Anyways, sorry, squirrel. Our grandparents' generation is the one that went from how do we make life easier?
Yeah.
How do we make life more efficient? And that's all I teach about, more efficient, effective, and productive. But we became less productive when there was a transition of the microwave made it a little bit easier to cook and stuff like that. And then our parents got a little bit slower on that. You know, our parents generation society, maybe not your parents, but like you were affected by other parents too, your teachers, your coaches, whatever. You were still affected by those people. That mindset of the quick, you know, I would say this is so funny. I should get paid by these people. J.G. Wentworth, it's my money and I want it now. We're so impatient with success. We like want it now. And if I don't get it now, that must mean the universe is telling me it's not for me. And I'm like, what? That's actually a test from the universe or from God, however you want to call it. Like, yeah, it just shows that you're not made for this. Like, how many times have I started something, absolutely completely failed and been like, oh, well, just shake the dust off and go try it again. Right. But before, you know, if you don't become more patient, and instead of being interested in succeeding, interested in helping, you know, having the life that you designed and living life on your own terms, instead of being interested, you have to be committed and understand that it's going to take time. But if you don't start to understand that every single person, whether they're privileged or they come from an immigrant country, right? Whether their parents had money or they're starting over, we all have the same 168 hours in a week. That's it. It's a fair game. In America, I don't want to hear this crap. No, we all have the same 168 hours in a week. Every person does. You're not in, where was it? Ethiopia, North Korea. Who else doesn't have access to YouTube? A bunch of places. I don't even think China has access to YouTube. There's a bunch of places that don't have access to YouTube. Like you're in America, homie. Like you can go to Starbucks. You know, everyone has a smartphone nowadays. You can go to Starbucks and get on YouTube, bro, for free. $3.99. Sure, you're going to get fed ads, but $3.99. Type in anything. Okay, last one. Get really good at knowing how to Google stuff. That's like an untaught trait that I have. I'm genuinely curious. So I'm like, how do I do this? How do I do that? Like, get really good at Googling. Most people, I'm like, just Google it. And they're like, what? I'm like, Google how to do this. Or okay, I wanted to learn automation on website this. And like get really good at Googling, because if you can Google, there is a YouTube video out there for it. I promise you.
Like Google University.
Absolutely. 100%. But again, that's not talked about a lot. I don't know anybody's talking about that. Like if you're not good at Googling, you are screwed.
Yeah, pretty much.
You are screwed.
I believe it. I think it's bound to happen where people are talking about it a little bit more, but YouTube has all the answers too. If it doesn't go to Google, like it's simple things to even just starting a business, Google it. Like what you were saying earlier with the person that you were working with, Google all the things that you need to start a business, but it goes back to just using your resources, being creative with that. And I think you do a great job at it, and being able to move the needle forward in order to be successful in any capacity, whatever lane you're in. So I've been really enjoying this conversation, Mikey, but we're going to quickly jump into the rapid fire questions if you're ready for them.
Ready.
Okay. The first question is, who is your hero?
My dad. Yeah, my dad. I look up to my dad. My dad's an awesome individual. He's made a lot of mistakes, done a lot of things right. My dad's my hero.
And what motivates you to work smarter?
I want to buy my time back so I can give more time to refugees that I met overseas and the underprivileged people in other countries, and even in my own backyard here in Houston and back home in Las Vegas. What makes me to work more efficient is I need to buy my time back. I used my 20s to be able to do that so that I can do more of what I want to do, which was serving and not getting paid for it. It's being self-funded for overseas missions and people that are underprivileged in my current city and overseas.
I love that. What if you were a superhero, what would be your power or powers?
Speed. I'm a quick implementer. I start things really quick. I'm a ready, fire, aim guy. I don't have to put it all together to start a business or anything. And I'm resilient. I'm like, I've got immortality. Another strength of mine would be immortality. Like I just don't stop. You can't kill me.
You're on a mission and you're making it happen. And what's the most daring thing you've ever done?
Get married. As a business owner, knowing that most 90% of business owners, their marriage fails. Most daring thing I ever did was get married. That sounds really cliche or really stupid, but like, I mean that. And if you're not married, or if you are married, you know what I'm talking about. If you are married, you know what I'm talking about. If you're not married, you think I'm an idiot. But no, getting married to my wife was the most daring thing I ever did, because that meant that we're not just responsible for Mikey Lucas and company. I was now responsible for Mikey Lucas company, their families, their kids, and now somebody that I will absolutely take care of for the rest of my life. Very different.
I think it's daring.
That is.
What is the phone app that you use the most?
A Tracker.
Sounds
My
like
absolute favorite. A Tracker. It's a tracking app that tracks to the micro action of what I'm doing. Right now, I'm tracking podcasts. So, I'm sorry, I'm tracking speaking engagement right now, not podcast. Podcast will be my podcast. I'm tracking speaking engagement right now. So A Tracker is the app that I use the most.
Cool. I've never used that, but it sounds like it's important to be using.
Yeah. I tracked 67 to 70% of my day the last few years in a row. And to the micro action, for instance, on the phone with my wife, hanging out with my wife, quality time with my wife, spiritual time with my wife, fighting with my wife. I track that too. If we're ever fighting, hanging out with my wife, with family and friends. Like, I want to know those. I mean, I get pretty ridiculous, but like, if I don't have enough quality time with my wife, I can guarantee you that there's something that's off in our marriage. If I don't spend enough time with the top 20% of my sales guys and girls, I guarantee you they're going to go low. It's just a waterfall effect. It might take 2-3 months, but if I'm not spending enough time with them, what you focus on, what you focus on, you'll give energy to, right? So it's very important that if you don't track what you're doing, you can't manage it. Same thing with finances, like generational wealth. Well, you want generational wealth? Like, do you know how much to the penny you spend every single month? Like, we just don't track the micro actions.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I write everything in my calendar, but now I'm going to look up this app because I'm a micromanager in that way for myself.
I'll tell you a tip on that really quickly. If so, people are like, oh, well, they might listen to this and be encouraged to do it, and they want to do it. They really generally do. But how to hack the system? I'm a big hack guy. If you can hack the system, is you'll set a calendar, an available calendar event, like a 5-minute calendar event at like noon, and I think at like 8 p.m. And you'll do a reminder every hour before that. So an hour before 11, an hour before 10, an hour before 9, an hour before 8, and just says tracking the task, the calendar event that's unavailable, so it doesn't take out your time. Time block is question mark, tracking, question mark, so that you're getting pinged, 7-8 times a day. Are you tracking? That's a repeat event for until eternity, until you don't need it anymore, until it just becomes second nature. And now I'm like, I'll go back, and if I forget, I go back and I just fill in the gaps, which you can do that. You can go back and fill in gaps.
I appreciate that hack. So I know you've spoken about a lot of books, but what's the last book that you've recently read or listened to?
No More Mr. Nice Guy. That's the book I'm currently reading right now. No More Mr. Nice Guy. It's about the nice guy syndrome, how a lot of men get walked on, and just why, like, psychologically, what things have changed. Talks about the gold standard, like the transition of the gold standard, like how that made guys more nice, and this and that and the other thing. And single families and stuff like that, and how that's, the men are, yeah, it's not that because I'm a nice guy, right? But nice guys end up having, are very successful, but sometimes they end up blowing up and in a bad way. So I want to make sure that I can solve that, but then also so that I can learn and help other people. So that's the book that I'm reading right now. The one before that is, oh my gosh, Get Off Your Acid. And I'm going back through Money Master the Game again right now, actually.
Well, you added a few to my list, so thank you. So if you had to describe yourself as an animal, like personality type, what animal would you be?
I'm an orca. I'm a mama's boy. I think about my mom more than anything. I'm playful. I'm resilient. I love the water. I'm a tamed beast. I really like orcas a lot. I've done a lot of research on them. If you don't know that, orca moms run the pod, or the grandma runs the pod. So I'm an orca.
I like
They're
that.
really strong. They're the elite animal in the ocean. Yeah, I'm an orca.
I like it. I could see that. So when you have a day off, or maybe just a few hours off, what is your favorite way to spend that day?
My wife loves to take me to like different restaurants, so we'll go try different restaurants. So she's a super foodie, so we will go out and have different restaurants. We'll try things, and sometimes it's the same, but a lot of times we'll go out and we'll just try new things. So spending time with her during those times, as well as I actually enjoy like going and hanging out with people at my church. So like I go to church on Wednesdays and Sundays, and I actually like enjoy that. I like being there.
Yeah.
And I also love going to the gym. So, like the gym is a sanctuary for me as well. Like a lot of people are like, oh, you need to find something else that's like not like straining your body, that's like fun to do. I'm like, no, that's fun, bro. Like I'm like excited.
It's good for the mental aspect too, mental health, just like clearing out any stress or buildup. It really helps. But with that being said, what is something an outsider wouldn't know about your industry?
It's not as complicated as you make it to start a fund. Most billionaires started their first fund in their 20s. We think that you don't to start a fund, it's actually not that hard. So yeah, that's the main thing, is that most of these billionaires, Buffett, Ray Dalio, Paul Tudor Jones, these guys started their funds in their 20s, their first funds in their 20s. I thought they started them when they're like in their 50s. They started their very first fund in their 20s. So did Mikey Lucas.
I did not know they started in their 20s.
Yeah.
Learn something new every day. But Mikey, where can people find you, use your services? We're going to link everything below, but if you could let us know too.
Sure. I think right now the most of like the easy content would be TikTok and Instagram. The quicker content, the longer form stuff is on my YouTube. Everything is at Mikey Lucas, MikeyLucas. So longer form content, more getting in depth, is on YouTube. More quicker content is through Instagram. And I give a lot of I'm more active on Instagram. So my stories, I'll post random things on my stories about day in the life of an entrepreneur, like showing people what I do, stuff like how I'm not excited to wake up today. Like I'm like pissed off today for some reason. And I'll get way more real and like authentic on Instagram. So yeah, TikTok and Instagram is where they'll see the real me, and YouTube is where they see like the long form content of me teaching lessons and things like that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Mikey, for your time today. It's been a pleasure just hearing all the wisdom that you have. And I know so many people have learned so much from you. I know I did, as always, every time I talk to you. But thank you again for your time, energy, and your heart.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Looking forward to supporting your journey as well.
Absolutely. Thank you. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment below. What was the biggest takeaway from Mikey? I'm sure there's more than one thing, but write it in the comment section below so he can see it and we can all see it as well. Thank you so much. And we'll see you on the next video.